Levine here, and today we're going to talk about getting souvenirs home from Italy. So, I hope you will learn from my mistakes. I made some really expensive mistakes, and I'm a newbie to travel in Europe. And so, if you are as well, then you're likely to make the same kinds of mistakes that I made. Hopefully, you can learn from my mistakes and not make those. So, I knew that I wanted to do some significant shopping when I went to Italy. We went for 23 days, and that's a long shopping trip. So we definitely and deliberately packed light. We all had one carry-on bag. We all had the one personal item. So mine was a backpack, and I packed light. But when I say I packed light, I say that I paid attention to how much it weighed. I didn't pay attention to how much space was in there. So I filled it up. And so I had very little room available for souvenirs, and that was kind of problematic. I had not thought that through very well before I left, or I would have done things a little bit differently. So, what did I do? We definitely did not want to cut corners on our shopping. So, here are some of the strategies that we used. Some of them are going to be, some of them are good and I would do them again, and some of them I would not do again. So, the one of the techniques that I would recommend is try to see if it's a high ticket item, see if they can ship it home for you. So it has to be expensive enough that the shipping costs are justified. So keep that in mind. Often the sellers will be able to help you with that and make recommendations about where that spot is, where it starts to make sense. So a couple of places that we did that, we went to a winery and we bought wine and we had them ship it home for us. That was a very heavy item. It's kind of pricey, and so it made sense to have that shipped home. The cost of the item and the uniqueness of the item justified the shipping expense. We also went to an agriturismo. That's like a working farm where their tourists come there and they actually produce agricultural items that you can purchase. So we went to a place that had olive groves and they made olive oil, and it was very good quality stuff. So we bought olive oil to have shipped home, and the people who ran the place were very helpful in helping us find that sweet spot where it made sense. The shipping costs were justified. So one of the things that they helped us with is they suggested that if there were a couple of people in our party that lived close to us, get together and have all of your things shipped together. So we did do that. We were traveling with some relatives and they lived close by, and so we had our orders combined and shipped together so that we could split the difference on that shipping cost, and that made a lot of sense. We didn't want to carry, we wanted more than a single bottle of olive oil. We wanted to buy enough that we could give gifts, and so that was a pretty substantial amount, and it was very high quality olive oil, so it was a little bit on the pricier side, so that made sense. Some other things that we did that maybe didn't make a lot of sense is, as I mentioned, my suitcase was full, and so we wanted to free up some space in our suitcase. I'm looking very critically at my suitcase while I'm over there. Well, I haven't used this thing. Maybe I should just ship this thing back home. I haven't used this item over here. Maybe I don't really need it. Maybe I'll ship that back home. So we found a mailbox store in Italy. That was the shipping store that was widely available, and they were all over the place. They're very easy to find. So we got together some of the items that we were carrying around in our shopping bag and some of the items that were in our suitcase that we didn't think that we would need, and we took them to the mailbox store and shipped them home. Now, it's important to note that there are some things that you cannot easily ship home. So perfume, for example, is very difficult to ship home, and you've got to jump through all sorts of red tape and paperwork and all sorts of things, and it's not convenient to ship perfume home. So we had purchased some perfume, and we didn't ship that home. We just put that back in the suitcase. Certain agricultural type items, also you can't ship home without jumping through a bunch of hoops. So I had bought some herbs, and they couldn't go in the box without a whole bunch of paperwork. So I was just going after the low-hanging fruit of what can I easily ship home. And I managed to fill a box so that the shipping cost made sense. And that's definitely, well, the box was large enough to justify the base cost of shipping something back to the States. So there's like this minimum charge for shipping something back to the States. And so you need to have a box a box big enough to justify that. Now, what I did not really think about is some of the items that I was putting in the box to ship home, they just weren't worth it. I'm spending like 40, 50, 60 bucks as a minimum for the shipping costs. And then I'm shipping things that I could get for a few dollars back home. Didn't make sense. I would have been better served to just get rid of those items rather than spend all that money to ship them back. So keep that in mind. Some of the items that I purchased, some of the souvenirs that I was shipping back, to me that it made sense. The cost was justified. These were things that were unique. They were not things that I could easily get back home. They might have been low cost items, but there was a lot of sentimentality that was attached to them. And so to me, that made sense to ship those back home. You need to also be very careful if you're shipping things home that you packed with you to think, really, I haven't used it yet, but might I use this? I might use this. I might need this. I shipped a pair of shoes home because I hadn't used them, and then I immediately injured one of my feet, and I needed those shoes because they were unrestricted, so that wound would have been uncramped. The other shoes that I had with me all were closed in on that particular part of my foot where the wound was, and so I couldn't wear them. I had to go and buy another pair of shoes that fit the same way as the ones I shipped home. That was not smart. So I shipped home things that I needed. Another thing that I shipped home, I had packed a raincoat, a rain poncho, and it had been sunny for a solid week. Okay, it's been sunny for a week. Does that mean it's never going to rain? No, that doesn't mean it's never going to rain. And of course, 2 or 3 days after that, we were in a town where I got caught in a rainstorm, and I had to buy another rain poncho. So that was dumb. So don't make those kinds of mistakes. If you thought enough to ship or to pack something and bring it along with you, think about it really critically. And is it possible that I might need this later on? If you know for sure you're not going to need it, fine. Then the question is, does it make sense to ship it home, or should I just abandon it? An example of that, I bought converters on Amazon for the electrical stuff on our trip, and I needed one, but it came in a 2-pack, and I brought them both, and I didn't need to. So it made sense that I didn't need 2 of them. That was a legitimate, I don't need this thing, but it didn't make sense to ship it home. I should have just abandoned it, given it to the front desk and said, here, give this to somebody. If they find that they don't have one, they lost theirs. So I shouldn't have spent money shipping that home. Now, I will tell you that we were not the only people doing this. While we were in the mailbox store, a woman came in with a big box, big box, full of dirty laundry. And she was shipping it all home. And I thought to myself, okay, if this is how much you're shipping home, how much did you bring? So you probably shouldn't be doing that. We brought just enough to get us through a week, and then we just washed clothes as we went along because we were there for 23 days. We could not pack 23 days worth of clothes. Don't even try to do that. You will kill yourself trying to cart that around. But So that is an option. A lot of the stores selling the high ticket items can ship it home for you. And then, another option. Oh, the other thing we did. So at some point, we decided that we had enough souvenirs, particularly fragile souvenirs, that we didn't want to ship home, or they couldn't be shipped home for some reason. So then what do? So we bought a suitcase, an additional suitcase. It was a very lightweight suitcase. It was hard side though, and it had a little strap on the top so I could attach it to my other suitcase and just tow it along as I was walking down the street with my suitcase. So we bought a second suitcase for souvenirs. That's how many souvenirs we bought. And it was one suitcase for the four of us. So we all combined our souvenirs and put them in that little suitcase. The souvenirs were particularly, they were pretty light. And so it was still manageable. I could easily carry that extra suitcase because it was so light. So that was how we solved it on as we were deep into the trip. So we didn't want to check a bag on the way to Italy, but we couldn't have cared less if we needed to check a bag on the way home. We didn't want to be stuck in the airport waiting for baggage claim while we were in Italy, or we were getting to Italy. We didn't want to spend any precious moments in the airport unnecessarily. And we also didn't want to risk losing all the things that we had carefully selected on the way there. And that did happen to somebody that we saw who checked a bag. Their luggage was lost, and then they had to start from scratch, and what a pain in the butt that was. So checking a bag on the way back, we couldn't care less. So we arranged things so that all of our fragile stuff that we wanted to be in our control was in the unchecked bag, and we put all the dirty clothes and all the things that, okay, if this gets lost, I don't really care. We put all of those items in the checked bag. So that's how we arranged it on the way home. And that worked pretty well. We may do that again next time. I think what I'll probably do is some sort of soft-sided thing that's collapsible that I can put in my suitcase and then just take it out as we accumulate things so that we don't have this problem in the future. My next trip is going to be much shorter, so I'm guessing I won't accumulate as much during that short of a trip, but who knows? I like to shop, so we shall see. So I hope you learned some do's and don'ts from my mistakes, and I hope you will like and subscribe so you can see other episodes, and I hope to see you in Italy. Ciao.